Hello, everybody, and welcome to Positive Fandom. I am your host, Arden. And of course, today we have with us Darth Plato. Darth Plato, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. It's good to be back on the Positive Fandom.
Yes, it's so great to have you here. Everybody who is watching today, we're going to be doing a watch party of Eight Men Out. Darth Plato, why did you choose this particular film?
Well, chances are I'm going to choose a historical film and some event, um, diplomatic and the development of the state, history of diplomacy, history of war, something I'm really into. But it's not the only thing I'm interested in. I love baseball. I love other things too. So it doesn't have to be war, diplomacy, and politics. So I thought let's take. Hey, it's summer. It's baseball season. Let's just do something different. Let's do a baseball movie.
I think it's a fantastic suggestion, and I'm looking forward to this. I haven't seen this movie probably about 20 years, so it's been a while. I'm looking forward to it, Darth Plato.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it's a little bit more than 20 years, but um, hopefully, I think the last time I saw this in the theater, and it was in the 80s, so it was a while back.
Wow.
Um, and I didn't know anything about the movie at the time. I worked at a theater, and I could get into like movies for free all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but I knew nothing about this story when it came out, and I was very surprised by it. Hadn't heard of it, and it is kind of a legendary story. So, let's see if this works. Yes. Okay. So, what start point are you at, Darth Vader? Are you at 001?
I'm at no. I'm at. Let me look at that again. I am at 250.
Oh, wow. Okay. We just catch up and put this to
Yeah,
250.
it's actually a really long. It's yeah. The intro is pretty long.
Okay.
At least
So
what I'm
this.
looking on Amazon.
All right. So music. They have the credits. Yeah, you're right. It is kind of long. Just
Good
gonna.
music though. I love the fact that they're doing music from that era.
Yes, it is great. Okay, I'm at 212. I'm almost there at 250. I didn't mean to restart it.
Yeah, you went a little over. I can always go forward.
I get it's just a place for 250. This is actually where I am literally synchronized with it now. Nine. So I'm synchronized with the clock, Darth Plato. So you get ready right at 250, which is coming up, and we can play it at the same time. Click it when it hits 250 now. Chicago
It's live.
1990. Yes. I am hearing some noise. Is there someone else? Okay.
Chicago 1919.
Hmm.
That would have been an interesting time to live. Gate receipts. This was the good old days of the dead ball era. They call it the dead ball era.
Is there something else playing on in the background? Because I can hear someone talking. Is
Yes,
there?
unfortunately, yes. I can't do anything about it. That's the owner, Charles Kaniski. Van Johnson. He was the president of the American League. There were two leagues then and now.
room 199. Yes, yes, mail it to there. And his name, he has it.
Mm.
And he's my son.
That was a good double play ball. Yeah, that was a common thing they did in those days. They made fun of college graduates weren't that common in those days, so it's not uncommon to see professional athletes housing these guys. Yeah, we did with the bubble gum right there. Yeah, Eddie Collins was known to do that. He always put gum on top of his hat unless he had two strikes. If he had two strikes, he'd put it back in his mouth.
Well,
He's also the greatest second. He's also the greatest second baseman that ever played the game.
They got a racket going on there. Hey, Tom Jr. Jackson. Hope you are well. Hope you are well today, Tom. Good to see you.
How you doing, Tom? Yeah, Jackson's bat. He literally named it Black Betsy. He literally talked to his bat.
Oh, fantastic, Tom. So happy to hear that. I hope Paul is well.
Yeah, what's happening to him right here, where the guy hassled him from the stands? Something like that really did happen, though it didn't happen in 1919.
And the kids are so happy with his Cracker Jack. He got his Cracker Jack. It was such a simpler time. Got some hecklers in the crowd. Yeah, Tom. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but was he in the hospital for a condition? I'm not going to say what it is, but was he in the hospital for a condition, or was it his brother?
Shock. Legendary catcher. Piss up a roof. Yeah, that was a common term or phrase in those days. Yeah, he was. Everybody in that era considered him the best catcher around. Ty Cobb called him the best play caller he ever hit against.
So this is the Chicago White Sox,
It is.
and it is the St. Louis Phillies. I'm sorry, the St. Louis Cardinals.
The St. Louis Browns.
Oh, the Browns. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention. Yeah, if it says St. Louis, I wasn't even looking at it. If it says St. Louis, yeah, it would have been the Browns. Yeah, see what he did there with putting the ball in the leg? That's it's a variation of a spitball. It's called a shrine ball. So he had some sort of foreign substance. That was legal in those days. You were allowed to do that. It made the ball fly in a way that was unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of tar or whatever.
An experienced hitter would know how to deal with it, but it's just a good pitcher knows when to use it, when not to use it. So that's the thing about baseball is it's a very cerebral game. You don't necessarily what's coming your way. And Seacott was a good pitcher. You see what they did right there with Comiskey. They're trying to push the angle in this movie that Comiskey was this horribly cheap guy, and that may have instigated the players into this blast off scandal. I think that angle is overplayed and not true. Uh, I believe the team was the second or third highest paid team in the league.
Wow, they're making money.
Yeah, so that angle that we're seeing in this movie, I don't think it necessarily justified. But the movie chose to go that direction with it. So there were a couple things that were going on those days for money. One, there was a thing called the Federal League. There was an attempt for a third league to open up. So there'd be a National League and the American League. There'd be the Federal League. That went back to like 1914, somewhere in there. That lasted a few years, and it raided a lot of the existing ball clubs for players. It went defunct. It didn't last, but it did. What it did is it did increase the pay salaries on most teams for players. So players did get paid more money after this episode with the Federal League, when the Federal League did close, the first ball club to really go all out to buying some of the players coming back was the Philadelphia Athletics. They put out a lot of money to get some of those players instead of the Red going back to where they were in the rest of the league. And that caused a pay rise in a lot of other ball clubs, including the Chicago White Sox. So it doesn't really make sense historically for these guys to be paid dirt cheap. Everybody in the league was raising their salaries to compensate for everything I just described.
And hello, Irene. Thank you for the kind words. I hope you are well, Irene. Hope you're having a great day.
You see that there what they did where they throw the glasses into the fireplace? Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, the reason why they threw glasses into the fireplace after a toast is they believed that the toast would be diminished if it was ever used again in the future for another toast.
Oh.
So they would drink the toast and they'd throw it in so it can never be used again. I see Irene in the chat. Hello, Irene. How are you? Oh yeah, Jackson. Yeah, he was illiterate. He couldn't read. He was a country hick from South Carolina.
Of course you do, Irene.
Georgia.
So the film does focus on, this betting scandal, or, whatever you want to call it. How common was that at this time, Darth Plato?
Honestly, don't know, but there were other players who were suspended for fixing games. This is just the most well-known incident. There was a rumor going around that the 1914 World Series might have been thrown, but I've never seen any evidence to that. Something like this would have been more common in boxing. I know for a fact that it was common in boxing because I used to know an old boxer who admitted that was what they did in those days.
Yeah. And J.H. Edis says, I've never seen this one. Where are you watching it? I think it's available on Prime, right, Darth Plato?
Which what?
It's available on Prime, right?
Yeah, we're watching it. We're almost at 17 minutes. This is 1919, the year 1919. I mean,
I believe it's available on Amazon Prime. J.H. Edits.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm watching on Amazon Prime. Yes. Yeah, we just hit 17 minutes on Amazon Prime.
So they're just speculating at this point, right?
The what? The what special?
They're speculating about the notion of throwing,
Yeah,
even the World Series, so to speak.
they are. Unfortunately,
Darn, I didn't do that correctly.
the amount of money involved though is very disputed. No one really knows what the agreement was.
What if I didn't do it here? If I just did a regular.
Yeah, the White Sox were favored to win the series, but it wasn't that overwhelming. The Reds did have a good team.
But this team did have some of the best players in the league, right, Darth
Oh
Plato?
yes, they had some of the best players who ever lived. Absolutely. Eddie Collins, he would not have been on the fix. Joe Jackson, the left fielder, and the catcher Ray Shark also was not in on the fix. Those three guys easily counted among first team all time. So this was a very good ball club. They won the World Series in 1917, so they've done it before. They've been champions. They know how to be champions. The guy they're talking about who just walked out was Freddie McMullen. He was a bench player. I don't think he even got a chance to play in the series. I don't even know. The only reason why he was even in and got any money at all is because that's the other guy there is Risberg. Risberg was one of the ringleaders for the players, and Risberg and Freddie were really tight, and so that's why Freddie was in on it and got money. There's no other reason.
In JH Edits, Tom Jr. Jackson says it's also available on Freevee. And Irene says, I have Prime, but I also have this kid. He's awake and loves mommy. Aww, it's so sweet. Was this during Prohibition?
No. Prohibition started in January 1920. So it's right around the corner. It hasn't arrived yet, but it is. It would have been in the news at the time about coming down. Yeah, that remark will come back to haunt him.
Which remark?
About what are they going to do? Call the cops?
Yeah.
Where are we in time?
I don't know, Irene. I don't know. Do you know, Darth Plato, if there's a joke in Lost about the White Sox or something? Irene is asking.
Well, they were actually called the White Stockings. I think they were called White Sox later. They're called the White Sox now, but in those days, I think they were called the White Stockings. Like the Cincinnati Red, they were called the Cincinnati Red leggings, but no one calls them that anymore. We just call them the Reds. Everybody wore hats in those days. Even the little kids wore hats.
Yeah, I can see that. This is kind of a touchy subject for this team. Even today, the notion of doing something like this is not anything any of these players want to be remembered for, even being associated with this. Why do you think they chose to make this film, Darth Plato, since that's the case?
About the film? Well, I don't know why they made the film. I'm glad they did because it's an interesting topic that should be talked about. But even today, this is a very what exactly happened is still controversial. We're still not entirely sure what happened. So what we're seeing isn't really the 100% factual rundown of what happened. It's just like a likely story of what might have happened, and they're exaggerating a certain point, like the part about the owner being a cheapskate and everybody hated him. That's an exaggerated angle they're putting on the story.
Mm-hmm. Hey, hi, Tom. To answer your question, Tom, we're going to do this show for Mission Impossible as soon as I'm done with this one. So right after this show, Tom, I'm going to be doing the review with Catherine, whatever time this ends, to answer your question.
Yeah, I don't know if this conversation ever took place. It might have. It might not have. I don't know. I see that green lamp on the guy's desk. I had a lamp like that once. Oh, one of the old fashioned lamps. I think it's pretty well agreed that these players, despite the fact that they did this, did not get the money they were promised. They got some money, but they didn't get the money that they were promised.
Hmm. Thank you, Tom. Hope you are well. And Stavros is here. Hi, Stavros says, hey, all. Happy day to you all. Well, happy day to you, Stavros, and welcome. We hope you are well.
Edward Davros, welcome. Horse racing, live even today.
Oh, he's got hundreds in his hands. That's a lot now.
Yeah, what about a lot more in those days? Inflation's crazy. I think it's 17 to 1.
Well, if you want to watch at the same time with us, yes, Stavros, you would have to.
You see, these guys, they're not making up their name. These are actually real people that were involved in this.
Mhm.
These were the go-betweens in the between the players and the people that had the money, the gamblers themselves. So whoever was bankrolling this, these were the intermediaries. Yeah, Arnold Rothstein. Yeah, Arnold Rothstein was a big time white collar gangster out of New York City at the time. Yeah, he was the big man in New York City before Lucky Luciano came on the scene.
So they're already recruiting people onto the scheme.
Let me get the exact time here. Yeah, we're at 27 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, Irene. Oh, Irene, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Thank you, Irene says, love you, girl. Thank you, Irene, so much. I so appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity. It really makes such a difference here on the channel. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for supporting this channel with the super chat.
Mhm.
Anyway, I just looked it up. $100 in 1917 would be about close to $2,400 today.
Wow. 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 That's a ton of
So when you have
dough.
a handful of $100 bills, that's a lot of money.
Hmm. And Irene, do your kids watch baseball? Do they play baseball? I'm curious.
It's a weird scene. And the one time he's explaining his gambler background, I get that, but I don't get why this former boxer is pushing back like this.
Yeah, Stavros is talking about the lamps and the fixtures as well. They did a great job bringing this back to 1919.
Yeah, it does look amazing. Some of the objects in this movie I've actually seen in real life. I've seen them. Well, those old telephones. I used to live at a place that had an old switchboard. Maybe not quite that old, but it was you couldn't dial out. You picked up the phone and it rang the office, and they had to connect you, kind of like what
Mhm.
he's doing now. So in those days, so he has to call an operator.
Exactly.
So yeah, in those days you couldn't call anywhere. Only the operator could do that. So if you wanted to call somewhere, you have to give the area code and then four numbers, which everybody I've noted everybody had four numbers instead of like what however long they are now.
So to be something like J894383.
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
$100,000. Yeah, I don't think they got more than 20,000. So they were promised 100. If that's true, if they were promised $100,000, then they got considerably underpaid. So they had to split up 20 grand among I guess 8 people or 7 people since Weaver didn't take any money.
It's
So
bizarre hearing them though talk about it so casually.
it is. I kind of wonder about that too. They kind of you'll see more of that.
I remember when I first saw the film, I wasn't quite sure what had spurred interest to make the film at that moment, and I wasn't sure if something else had come out in the '80s about this whole thing. But I never found out if anything additional was revealed about the story.
Well, I think the this particular movie is based on a novelization of the event that was in the mid '60s, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, that would have been 20, 25 years removed from when they made this movie. And that might be where they're getting the angle about Comiskey being a cheapskate. It probably comes from that novel. Just to continue the thought about the dead ball era, what that means in those days is that the baseball was made of a different substance than it is now. So it was more dull, and you could continue using it. So it would become duller and duller during the course of the game. It would become disfigured during the course of the game, and you had to give the ball back. So they kept reusing the same ball as long as possible. And so what that did is that made scores artificially low, what's called the dead ball era. After they changed it after 1920, it completely changed after 1920. Though.
Ooh, I don't remember seeing so much cash in the story, which is kind of funny what you remember. What I do remember was the drama after the game. And there's a court case in this film, um,
Mhm.
or like a maybe it's not a
Yeah,
court, but there's some
there
kind of
is.
hearing. Let's say it's a hearing that takes place during this film.
Yeah, I don't. Uh, he threw. Okay, I don't know where they are exactly, but it seems like they're kind of in a public place, and he just threw a lot of money down that table. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
And Stavros says, is wearing wedding rings more of an actor thing or character thing? I think at that time in the United States, people wore their wedding rings.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I have no doubt about that. These two guys, these two guys were real people. There's Ring Lardner and Huey Fullerton. They were very well-known sports writers at the time.
What kind of role did the papers play in this, Darth Plato? I imagine it must have been huge.
What was?
The role that the press played in this story.
Yes. The yeah, these two guys, they're not just random guys. These were the guys that broke the story on the scandal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how much these guys really would have been talking to each other for real, I don't know. They seem like they all know each other. I don't know if that's really if they would have been that casual about it, but they did. They are well known to the narrative of the overall story. They did break the story.
It's kind of intimidating. And hello to Lugnut6. Hope you are well, Lugnut6. Lugnut6 says, a sweet hello to that beautiful, celestial, gorgeous heart light of the universe, RM. Thank you so much, Lugnut6. I so appreciate your kind words. You always say the sweetest things. Thank you for being so kind and just for being you. Thank you, Lugnut6. So glad you are here. So there was a lot of let's say based on this book that this movie was adapted from, let's say, theoretically here, we don't know for sure. There was a lot of coercion going on.
Oh yeah, but I don't know if that comes from the book. That comes from the actual testimony. There was a lot of testimony about who said what and who did what. That's like we're still trying to unravel it all. Who promised what? So take just for example, Squidbird's rocking to Joe Jackson right now. I read two different instances that said that he was approached by Lefty Williams, one of the pitchers, and on another occasion by Chick Gandil. So that's two different accounts of how he was brought into this. So apparently Joe couldn't make up his mind about what actually happened. Now in the movie they're showing Risberg. So this is sweet Risberg who's making the pitch. So
Even the language, there's a good boy, like he better know his place and do what he's told. That kind of thing is it is very intimidating to see.
yeah, Risberg had a reputation for being kind of a rough character.
Mm-hmm. Now, why was Shoeless Joe Jackson called Shoeless Joe Jackson?
Honestly, don't know. It's easy to imagine that his shoes were flying off his feet because he didn't tie them right. It's easy to. Who knows? Maybe that's what really happened. People had all kinds of interesting nicknames that day. Walter Johnson was known as the Big Train.
Jumping Joe DiMaggio. I mean, I assume that he used to jump around a lot, but I never really saw a game he played.
Yeah. Christy Matheson was called Big Six. Ty Cobb was called the Georgia Peach. There was a guy named Bob Ferguson in earlier years that was called Death to Flying Things Ferguson. The people had really colorful names.
All right, now we're in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, you're ahead of me. I just be up.
there's a lot of focus on how much they're making, money wise. And Ludnux, it says, and a big Texan hiya to his Darthness. That's for you, Darth Plato. A big Texan hiya from Lugnut6 to you, Darth Plato.
How you doing, Lugnuts? How you doing, Lugnuts?
And Linwood Kent says, Shoeless Joe Jackson was hopelessly sucked into this mess. He was actually a very decent, honest guy. Yeah, that's very interesting, Linwood Kent. And it is interesting to see this level of intimidation on these players, doing something that I don't think they ever would have even wanted to be involved in. Between the comments about let them know that they get just enough and that they'll be hungry for it, or that, there's a good boy. It does seem like there was a lot of coercion, for these players, at least based on this film, let's say, and the testimony.
Well, we are talking about big money changing hands, sir.
Mm-hmm. And Lugnut6 says, a movie about the infamous Black Sox scandal. JH Edit says, have you ever been to Cincinnati? I don't think I've been to Cincinnati. How about you, Darth Plato?
Certainly not. The World Series in these days was actually a best of 9 rather than a best of 7. The World Series almost always was a contest that was a best of 7, except 1917, 1918, and 1919. I think there was an experiment where they did 3 years where they did a best of 9 series. So I think this is the final year where they were doing the best of 9. That's why you're going to see the World Series go almost 9 games instead of 7.
Mm-hmm. And Stavros says, gone are the days of using hazards like candles. Yeah, Stavros. Things have changed a lot, haven't they? And JH Edit says, wow, what a cast here. Yes, it is a big cast. A lot of famous actors who went on to make a lot of big-time films after being in this film, 8 Men Out. Lugnut6 says, I remember reading about that long ago as a kid in Chicago. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. And Stavros says, top hats galore. Yes, Darth Plato was just talking about how everybody wears a hat during this time. Very different attire for men and women. And Tom Jr. Jackson says, in the October 1949 edition of Sport magazine, Jackson recalled he got his nickname during a mill game played in Greenville, South Carolina. He had blisters on his feet from a new pair of cleats, which hurt so much that he took his shoes off before he was at bat, hence the name Shoeless Joe Jackson. Thanks so much, Tom Jr. Jackson, for that information.
I believe it.
And
I heard a story that he his first train ride, he jumped off the train because he got scared of all the noise.
Oh.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. And JH Edit says, I lived in Toledo for a while, but never went to Cincinnati.
Yeah, they don't really show it in the movie, but Jackson had a great outfield throwing arm. So, he could stand in the outfield and heave the ball over the grandstand. So he had a really good arm, and he had a reputation for if you had a fly ball and you were on third base, you wouldn't run on him because he would just throw you out of home plate. So he wasn't just a great hitter; he was a great outfielder too. That's why he's called like the total package. Speaking of Jackson.
And JH Edit says, it feels like Major League seeing Sheen here. Oh boy.
Yeah, that really happened. Apparently, he really did ask to be benched before the series started.
And Stavros says Ohio seems like a great place that gets all the weather and seasons. Mhm. Now I've been to Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm.
Money on the bed, the old trick. Yeah, that's the thing that's so bewildering is that they were such great athletes, and this is kind of like betting against them seems cruel, even if it
Part,
is more money.
yeah, betting in their day would probably more common because athletes didn't actually make that much money compared to nowadays. Nowadays, players make so much money now; it's ridiculous how much money they make now. Uh, that was. I remember in the '80s when people were talking about this, like, "Wow, look how much money the guys are getting now compared to how they used to." And it's like, is this just how much is going to continue? And that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Gary Carter. I remember he ended up getting a contract with the Mets where he was making $1 million, and that was a lot of money. Like they were like, wow.
Yeah,
Um,
see, in the early days before World War I, professional athletes they weren't held that high regard. They were like well, they weren't like prostitutes. They weren't like prostitutes and pimps, but they were like a level above that. They weren't exactly considered high clientele. So they weren't really welcome in the best establishment, like the best restaurants and the best hotels.
that's interesting. And JH Edit says Frazier's dad. I love that guy. Yes, he's he's playing, I guess, the manager, maybe one of the coaches here.
I think there's a kinship there with actors, because actors weren't really considered that famous until they became more their face became more associated with the product. Like the moving of the movie star. When you see the movie star come into existence, you also see the sports athlete star come into existence. So there does seem to be a correlation between the rise of the movie star in the public view and the professional athlete.
And Lucknut6 says, I hate to ask, but will we see a movie about the Houston Astros cheating scandal? I don't know. Will we? And Stavros says, I hope we get to see at least the Brooklyn Dodger logo. And yes, I do know my history. And the Gothic Knight says, hi,
Yeah,
what about you?
yeah. There used to be a Brooklyn Dodgers. They were in They used to play at Ebbets Field. Yeah, things were different in those days.
All right, so Darth Plato, this is the game that they want them to throw. Am I correct?
They want them to, yeah, they want them to throw the whole series. So you're gonna have to sabotage the game somehow.
And Stavros says, it's better they rob the Yankees and Dodgers of W's chips and appearances.
I don't know.
And JH Edit says, I can't believe I hadn't seen this one. It even has Chris Lloyd. Yeah, JH Edit, this is a pretty famous film actually, for baseball.
Yeah, I love the uniforms. Look at the balls of this era.
Hmm.
The uniform. I love the uniforms in this era. it's hard to throw a game and not look really obvious doing it.
Yeah.
Especially for like a hitter. I mean, what are you going to do if you're a hitter? You're just going to stand there and swing the bat funny. I mean, it's going to be obvious to everyone. Like, what are you, drunk or something? It's it's not an easy thing to do, as people think.
And Tom Jr. Jackson says this film makes a good double feature with Field of Dreams.
Yeah,
I
because of Joe Jackson. Yeah.
I agree, Tom. And Lucknut6 says, I will say this. My love of baseball grows with every pitch, swing, foul, and home run. I even still play Harry Carey, take me out to the ball game.
Yeah. Harry Carey was a legend. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, he really was.
He did that every seventh inning stretch, I think.
Now he's resisting and he's somewhat defiant about it. He's very defiant about it. And I almost feel a little sorry for him because he's the one who's very vocal about it through the entire situation, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, that's true. Like, again, that this could just be the movie. I don't think we really know what happened. He was accused by some other players of throwing ball games in other instances, and continuing to do so after this. Whether that's actually true or not, I don't think anyone really knows. But there is another side to this that might be true. So just because the movie is making adamant that he's like this, who knows what really happened? Oh, he's showing him the new ball. Yeah, they're changing balls after this season. So this is actually the cusp of the change between the dead ball era and the live ball era. When they change the balls, the ball comes off the bat much more quickly, with much more velocity. So that's really the age of high scoring games and home runs. Home runs become much more common after this.
And Stavros says, Sandlot made me love the game.
Oh, I remember that movie. Yeah, that was a that was a fun movie.
So he knows that people are in the bag and he's lying. Hmm.
Well, I think Jackson testified that he didn't play his best. What exactly that means, who the hell knows? But when he says that, all we can really do is take his word for it. Yeah, this must have been really frustrating for Shock.
Well, it must have been very hard to recreate this too, because it does feel frustrating. There's something about it that feels physically frustrating.
Yeah, they only had two umpires in those games in those days, and they could do a lot more than they can now.
And J&H Edit says, when it comes to baseball movies, A League of Their Own is tops in my book. That was a great film. Oh my goodness gracious. Did this actually happen, Darth Plato?
Honestly, don't know. I'd be surprised if it did. I remember years ago there was a guy who skydived into the baseball game once. I remember that. That was years ago.
And JH
However, what happened here, I think it did happen. What's going on? What can happen right here?
and JH Edit says, every time I see Michael Rooker, I just assume he's playing a bad guy.
Yeah, there was a smash up in the locker room at that over this, and between Gandalf and Kid Gleason. It might explain why Gleason left the team after this. Or
I believe it.
Gandalf, I mean, he left the team. He left the team after the season. Kid Gleason was a very respected manager. Better be important. I don't think they all would have stayed in the same hotels. I can't prove that, but I don't think they did
Mm-hmm.
because someone like Comiskey would have been considered a high clientele.
Right. Stavros says the dilemma in all these guys, you can't tell who wants to try hard or throw. Yeah, Stavros, that's a good point.
Yes, you see that where he said, "What are you gonna do? Call a cop?" Risberg said that same thing in the beginning of the movie.
And JH Edit says, wow, burning in effigy. Stavros says, way to throw the dummy dummies.
And that's true about who was throwing and who wasn't. No, that's very true. That was they talked about that in the court proceedings. When did you know? When did you know it? And how do you know that? Yeah. Even to this day, we still don't understand what role Weaver and Jackson really have. That's supposed to be Van Johnson.
And guys, we were just about halfway through the film. Thank you to those of you who are watching along in this classic film, 8 Men Out. Well, hello there. Brogo is here. Brogu says, hi, RM. Hello, Brogu. We are watching 8 Men Out right here on Positive Fandom. About an hour in. Join us. Let us know what you think about this classic film. And
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
JH Edit says, these gangsters don't even try to hide it. Yeah, they are very blatant. They own the joint. That's what they're letting everybody know. Now, what were you going to say, Darth? Plato?
Vicky Kerr was a well circulated pitcher on the minor circuit. That he brought up from the minor leagues to fill in a hole because of Red Faber. Red Faber had been ill for the second half of the season, so he had to step down from the pitching rotation. They brought in Kerr to replace him, but he wasn't like a 20-year-old rookie who with little experience. He'd been around, so they're making him out to be like this young kid who'd never pitched before. That he was an experienced pitcher.
And Brogu, I hope you are well this evening. Hope all is well with you. Tom Jr. Jackson says, such a good movie. It is, Tom. It is really, really good. I would totally mess up those signs. JH Edits wants to know, who is the director of 8 Men Out? Do you happen to know, Darth Plato?
I do not.
All right, I guess we'll have to look it up. All right, so the director of 8 Men Out is John Sayles.
Yeah, that's a Lance question.
And apparently he plays a role in the film, Darth Plato.
I'm sorry?
The director plays a role in this film.
Oh, he does?
Mm-hmm. It says that he plays the role of Ring Lardner.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, Ring Lardner is the tall is that's right, that guy right there.
Yeah, that's the guy with the
Yeah.
brimmed
Yeah.
hat with the stripe on it. That's the director, guys.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson. Rogu says, I am doing fine. Hope you're doing well this evening. Stavros says, we on to Chicago President Obama's home state. Yes, absolutely. And JH Edit says, I'm unfamiliar with his work, but I like his style.
Yeah, he wrote a poem about about the whole scandal too. They say it in the movie. Yeah, the thing about Weaver is that he was really tight with those guys. So he may not have agreed what they did, but he was still pretty tight with them. And I think his attitude was that it's not good to be a snitch. So he just kept his mouth shut. Oh.
I love how Joe just keeps calling them out, you know? He just keeps calling them out.
Well, like I said, that might be just what the movie's doing. Because Joe did admit that he was not playing on the level.
So, and I can't remember the details, but I'm assuming they keep winning and people are getting very nervous about these bets, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, that's part of the angle that I read in the book. And I don't mean the novel book. I meant the real study. I read it back in 1990, and there were different groups of gamblers. There was more than one, and it was confusing about who worked for who and who promised what. And it doesn't seem like any of them really kept their promises. So, like I said, very few money. These guys actually got very little money for it. But yeah, like the guy that showed Sleepy Bill Burns and Mahard, those two middlemen, they got busted pretty early. Who they were working for, where they got the money from, I don't know, but yeah, they got busted. Yeah, I love the fact that the umps can just throw you out of the game like that. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an umpire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world that they can just say you're gone, you out of here, just like that, and it was gone. You're out. That blonde kid looks like Draco Malfoy. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say about Friends. He was friends with those guys, and he didn't want to snitch on them. And he's going to do his poem now. He really did write a poem. He really did say this. Ring Lardner, I mean. Money's involved in everything. It's been this way since the beginning, since the days of the Sumerian empires.
So what did it say? Sox was one game from winning it.
I'm sorry, what?
Did the notice say that the Sox was one game from winning the series?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's it was a best of 9 series, so they'd have to lose 4. Uh,
And Brogu says he was out in that last that last call. Umpire has more power than NHL, NBA refs.
or it's best of
NFL is
9.
getting
Yeah,
ridiculous
yeah,
targeting penalties, though.
yeah. They have to lose 5. So if it's the best of 9 series, they have to lose 5.
Yeah, I agree. Brogu, that's terrible that he would sing that song. That really would be very unnerving to
Oh,
the
yeah.
players.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Stavros says is absolutely correct. The thing about the targeting penalty, like I understand that they want to get that they want to keep the players safe and reduce injury. I understand that. I'm fine with that. But yeah, the targeting penalties, you just go like, whoa, what are we doing? It gets really out of hand. And not to change the subject, but I wanted to say I agree with that statement. Stop singing, dude.
So everybody has this anticipation of them winning the series, right, Darth Plato?
Hmm?
Everyone now has this anticipation outside of the betting ring. Everyone has this anticipation of the team winning the World Series.
Yeah, they do. It's not all the same though. It's different for everybody. Some who's this? That's Williams. Yeah, I don't understand Williams' story. I read one thing that said that he was one of the ringleaders, and the other one said that it was just Gando and Risberg, and they were the ringleaders, and they brought in Lefty. So I don't know. All right, so what they're trying to do here with this scene is they're trying to illustrate how the players themselves seem to disagree about what it is they were doing and for how long and for how much money. That confusion all was all aired out in the courts, and no one really could make any sense out of it. So they're trying to illustrate that here in in that scene there. And it could be that they had a change of heart because they realized they were not getting paid what they thought they were getting paid. They were supposed to be getting paid. You're a bum. Yeah, so in a normal series, this would be game 7. This would normally be the final game of the World Series, but this is an experimental year, one of three, where they play the best of 9. Yeah, that's the you said Maury. That was actually Maury Rath. He was the leadoff hitter of the Cincinnati Reds. He was a very good player. He had an unusually shaped bat called a bottle bat. He's throwing a knuckleball right there. Yeah, because he rubbed the ball on the leg. That's how he put the substance on the ball.
And Brogu says, "Don't do it, Eddie."
Yeah, it was a way. It's a doctoring the ball. It's a variation of the spitball. It makes the ball fly in an unusual, unpredictable way. Unpredictable to anyone but an experienced hitter. So after the season in 1920, they changed baseball, so it goes to the light ball era, higher score game, more home run. But they also outlawed the spitball. 17 players were allowed to continue it because it was too much of their repertoire and they would have ended their careers. But it was also the end. This was also the turning point in the outlawing of the spitball. Unless your name's Gaylord Perry. Yeah, look at Gleason. Even now, he's trying to stick up for his guys, even though he knows what's going on. It must have been tough.
Yeah, and Tom G. Jackson says it makes you want to ask them if it was all worth it. True. Um, and Stavros says most of these actors and ball players, actors, played in my favorite soaps. Yes, they have, Stavros. They have. Many of them got their start in a soap opera or two.
It would have to depend on who you for Tom Jr. Jackson. It would depend on who you asked. I think that's a good question. I think most of them would say no, so, except for maybe Gandol and Risberg, where they were just in it for the money anyway. Now look at this! Look at this weasel.
Oh my God, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah, that
That,
came out. That came out in the trial. There was testimony that something like that did happen, but
mm-hmm.
again, we don't know if that really happened or not. The movie is assuming that it did. Yeah, he's using the mega horn. Yeah, that's what they did nowadays. They didn't have a PA system in those days, so the only way you could hear anything was by shouting through those horns. That's how they announced the starting lineup. They would stand up there and they would announce the starting lineup through yelling through those mega horns at the plate. I really appreciate the detail that they're going through about what it must have been like in that time.
Agreed.
A flag with 48 stars.
And Grogu says, "You don't threaten a man's family." I agree. That's so out of line. But now we can see if that were the case, what he was up against.
Yeah. And we're talking about gangsters here. I mean, Charles Ronstein was a big time New York gangster in New York before Lucky Luciano. So yeah, I believe it.
So JH Edit says, so who did you better, this guy or the kid from Dark Knight Rises?
I don't get that.
I don't know. I don't know, JH Edits. Who did it better, this guy or the kid from The Dark Knight Rises? I don't know. Darth Plato, do you have a?
Yeah, I don't even know what he's referring to.
I don't either.
That was a
Sorry,
good
we
save
don't
right there.
know. We don't know, JH Edits. Sorry. What's that means? What a cross genre?
The cross genre would be like aliens in a Western movie. You're taking a genre and you're crossing together in an unusual way, like maybe seeing a spaceship in a King Arthur movie.
Mm-hmm. And JH Edit says the American anthem. Yes. Oh, Brogu says the kid did it better.
I'm gonna have to go with the maybe the guy that did the '84 NBA All Star game. That's the best national anthem I've ever heard. If you don't know what I mean, just Google it. It's 1984 NBA All Star game. That's the best national anthem I've ever heard.
Brogu says Bane even said that the kid had a beautiful voice.
Yeah, I only saw that movie once. I don't know. There's Joe. Babe Ruth said that when he wanted to switch from a pitcher to a full-time hitter, it was because he was inspired by Shoeless Joe Jackson, and that he styled his swing after Joe Jackson.
Oh, that's interesting. So what was the fate of these players after this whole thing, Darth Plato?
The point of what?
What was the fate of these players after this?
Yeah, we'll get to that. They're gonna show that in this movie. They weren't allowed to play anymore. Well, immediately afterwards, nothing happened to them. Immediately afterwards, they just went to the off season, then they trained, and then they played another season. They went into 1920. So this whole thing will eventually wrap up about say 2 or 3 weeks left in the 1920 season, and that ceased. That really ended Chicago's chance of getting into the World Series for that year. They may not have gotten in anyway since they were in first place. Right, so that's not true what they're showing with Gandalf. They showed Gandalf working out for next season. Gandalf left the team after this, so he wouldn't have been there.
Philly fighter fingers fix. Excuse me. Philly fight fingers fix. Cheap shots plague players. Stavros says no spoilers, please.
Fair enough.
JH says it's amazing how the whole landscape of baseball has changed over the years. The era depicted here seems almost mythical. It does, JH edits.
Yeah, this is 1920 was definitely one of the big years where things changed.
And Brogu says, say that 6 times fast. I can't say it 6 times fast.
Thick-lipped. I'm not sure what the thick-lipped means.
Kaminsky offers 10,000 reward for evidence. Wow.
Yeah, this is Eddie Collins. He Collins had a law degree from Columbia, so he was by far the most educated person on this team. So Comiskey paid him what he wanted because he could go anywhere he wanted, quite literally.
And I want to thank all of you for being here, for watching 8 Men Out with us. This incredible story, and certainly a story that had huge impact on baseball.
Yeah, huge impact on sports.
JH Edit says, never trust paid for evidence.
Yeah, no kidding.
$10,000.
That's a lot of money even now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is Kennesaw Mountain Landis. This guy was a nut. He was a circuit judge in Chicago. During the First World War, he would sign arrest warrants for German military officers and the Kaiser during the war. Knowing full well that they could never be carried out. I think he did it just to make a name for himself. He's talking about the Germans there.
So now it's going to focus on how it comes up as being sort of a hearing, if you will, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, they're gonna get into the court drama, and they're gonna try to tap into why it was all confusing. It, it's really more confusing than the movie is really gonna let on. There was even rumors that after the gamblers went to the Chicago players, they went to the Reds players too, and that doesn't make any sense. It's really hard to make sense of it.
Yeah, now it says it's a grand jury, so
Yeah, if there's anybody that didn't regret the whole thing, it would have been some of the middlemen that got paid. Unless, of course, you're this guy. You get up with a broken nose.
Stavros says, "What a teardown to lose it in the 8th game." And of course, that guy was reading in another language because I'm assuming he's leaving the United States.
I think he's going to Cuba, which in those days would have been a nice place to live.
And Grogu says they all look corrupt if you ask me. Oh boy, what is he signing? What do they ask? Is it a non-disclosure agreement or something, or
Confession. I think they're signing a confession.
oh my gosh. So Darth Plato, did he actually confess in this way? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. Jackson did one as well. There's a third one. There were three of them. Seacott did it. Jackson did it. I'm not sure who the third one was.
Yeah, I agree, Brogu. Don't admit it to it, fool. Yeah, it's awful. You can't ever take that back. And Doug Plato, you said he couldn't sign his name. He doesn't even know what
Yeah,
he's signing, right?
yeah. He's illiterate. He doesn't even know what he's reading.
That's terrible. Yeah, JH Edit says never sign something you don't fully
Yeah,
understand.
what that guy said, they promised us X amount of money, but they only got it. They only got like $5,000. Yeah, that was a common complaint that the players had, but it was hardly something they can go to court for. So it does look like whatever they were promised, they got ripped off. And here comes the line of the movie right here.
Joe, you just ruined baseball for that kid.
I hate to say it, but that might have actually happened.
it becomes very difficult to watch this film. I did it, kid, says Brogu. So awful. That poor child. And
Yeah.
JH Edit says, I love the song Say It Ain't So by Weezer. It's a good song. I played it and sang it a lot on Rock Band. And Linwood Kent says, thanks, Darth. Many interesting points. And many thanks to our very kind lady. Well, thank you, Linwood Kent. I hope you are well tonight. Stavros says, reading out the paper and Spanish with a broken nose. Yes, that poor fellow. He's gone. Like he left already. We're not ever going to see him again. And JH Edit says that he saw Weezer live recently. That must have been great. JH Edits. I love when these bands are still playing after like what, over 20 years now, right? It's fantastic.
25. Very close to it.
JH Edits says it was an awesome show. They still got it. I believe it, JH Edits.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the order of these events either. I'm not sure if the trial happened before Judge Landis really made his ruling. Talk about the commissioner now.
Mm-hmm. And Grogu says, are you on a fashion shoot? I like the hair blowing in the wind. No, I'm not on a fashion shoot. No, I'm just watching a movie with you fine people. Thank you. I'm glad you like billowing hair.
Yeah, I think Tom G. Jackson has the most apt line for the whole thing.
Yes, exceptional cast, tragic story of greed and throwing their careers in the toilet. It is terrible, isn't it, Tom? It's just so sad to watch it unfold.
Yeah, that's quite literally what they did.
And Tom Jr. Jackson says, Grogu, it's called billowing. It's called billowing. Yes. And guys, don't forget, there's going to be a PGS Treks on Friday at 10 p.m. right here on the Burnettwork. And we're not on the Burnettwork, we're in Positive Fandom, but on the Burnettwork with Julian and I talking about what's going on with Star Trek. Yes, Davros, I wouldn't even have testified at anything like this. I think they're really, you can't make it out alive in this type of a trial. And Linwood Kid said, yeah, I forgot to mention your hair blowing in the wind. Very pleasant to watch. Well, thank you, Linwood Kent. That's so kind of you to say. And thank you for being here. This certainly is a very, very interesting film.
Did Weaver give a confession? I don't know. Yeah, look at the reporters all running out of the room. They're gonna go get the telephones so they can get the the scoop to the newspaper, so the newspaper can be the first to get it out.
Very, very accommodating, isn't it?
It's funny. It's funny how they did things in those days.
JH Edit says, I will so be watching the PGS. Well, thank you, JH Edits. So glad that you are doing that and enjoying everything. And Tom is mentioning that on Monday night, don't forget, we got Ladies of the PGS on Monday nights on the Burnettwork at 6 p.m. Eastern. And please do like and subscribe to Positive Fandom, everybody.
I think Rustin was eventually busted, but not for this.
Mm-hmm. Confessions disappear, guys, right? That's what's happened, and we're not surprised by this.
43.
And guys, don't forget I have my Sunday brunch show on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with Russ Whitfield. Please don't forget to join me for Sunday brunch.
He did have a reputation for being cocky, Collins. He wouldn't hit his own weight. That's not even true. I don't even know why they even put that in the movie.
Stavros says, trials even in movies, the nerves at max. .327 is a very good batting average.
Yeah, he seems so simple.
It really does.
Like, gosh, golly, gee whiz, kind of thing.
Okay.
He was. I think he really was like that. Yeah, that mouth hanging open naivety. I've seen players testify to that in the past. But he was a monster at the plate there. Yeah. Yeah, there were definitely other instances, but this was by far the worst, most public. Yeah, we're coming to it now. Well, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that we're getting a sports analogy from a professional athlete.
Thanks, Virgo. You didn't do it, did you, Buck?
He says next year. Yeah, they're playing now. They're late in the season right now. This is almost a full year since the World Series.
And it's not apparent in the film that that's the case.
Yeah, it's not, but they are well in. This is probably September.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, Stavros. Best effort, no go, such a shame. Yeah, yeah, Brogu. Uh, Hearing him talk to that kid. Now, they were acquitted, But there was a $2,000 fine, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, I don't think the fine really matters. Yeah, they were acquitted. That's true. But it doesn't end there.
I think it was a great film. Certainly, they brought us back to that time period.
Yes. Yeah, I love the look. But Landis is going to have the last word, though. The first commissioner of baseball. Gander wouldn't even have been there.
So they went from calling them the Black Sox to the Clean Sox now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the clean slots were the guys that weren't in on it, like Collins.
Oh, okay.
Yep, look at the alcohol. No alcohol, guys. It's prohibition.
So essentially, what this is that it's implying that they're going to be banned from baseball, Darth Plato?
Yes, they were banned for life.
Now, did they go and play for other leagues under different names? Do you know?
No, they can't play in major leagues. If they want to go to another country and play, they sure. They want to go. You want to go to Dominican Republic? Go. I don't think they did. I'm not even sure what this. I think they just put this in here. I'm not sure why they put this scene in.
So then I must have remembered this from the film.
Yeah. Also, seen this when he threw his glove. That's something they did in those days. Yeah. You didn't bring your own glove into the play. You just dropped the glove on the ground and let the next person come out and take it. So they shared gloves.
Yeah, and Broku said, like I said, everyone looks corrupt, even the judge and jury. There's a lot of corruption going on.
Yeah, he was a legend in his own time, that's for sure. One of the few 400 hitters.
This was a great film, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the film.
He wouldn't have been a young guy by this time. His rookie year, I think, was 1911. So, if this is 1925, he'd be close to 40 now.
And Stavros says, if your manager has your back at its worst, you know you got a coach. Yes. So here at the end of the film, guys, we are nearing the end of the film. Thank you for everybody who stuck around for the past 2 hours to watch 8 Men Out. It was cool, wasn't it, JH Edits? It was great. Shoeless Joe Jackson and the other
one
band
more exposition here.
major leagues. And Buck Weaver tried to clear his name every year until his death, and his appeals were denied.
Yeah, he died in 56, I think. They both did. Jackson died in 51, I think. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure when they passed away, but this was, yes, definitely, Tom, a great but tragic film. What
58.
stood out to you about this film, Darth Plato?
I'm sorry. What about it?
I was saying, what stood out to you about this film, Darth Plato?
Oh, what stand? Well, first and foremost, it's a baseball movie, and I love baseball, so but it's a baseball history movie, so it's all like the best. It's the best of both worlds. I like the period drama, the way it looked, the fact that the fact that they were trying to get the accents right from those days. If you listen to the radio in those days, people sounded like that. They all the lamps, the chairs. It just looks like a time. It's like a time capsule. And I love that sort of thing. Um, it's a fascinating story, even if it's a very confusing story about what really happened. But It's still interesting. Um, yeah, that's really what I have to say off the top of my head.
I'm going to say that for a lot of times when they have these movies where it's supposed to be a period piece, kind of like costume drama or whatever you want to call it, um, they also have to have the cultural elements in it. And I think they did a good job. The way that the people sound at that time, how did people sound in 1919? What did people sound like in these towns during that era? And I think it looked wonderful. I think
Yes.
also that uh, I don't think anybody's going to completely understand when exactly everything took place, but they will know that they're talking about throwing a game. And that is absolutely clear in the film, that they start to talk about throwing a game. And then all of a sudden there's a hearing. What did you guys do it? I guess some people might have signed things. Some people denied it, but they were acquitted, but it was with a price. And Stavros says not guilty. What stood out to me was proper clothing and whatever role you take in, right, full advantage. All the guys went on to things. Yeah, definitely. A lot of the actors in this movie are pretty famous now, and we've seen them time and time again. I think someone had talked about, I can't remember the actor's name, but he says whenever he sees him, he always plays a bad guy. He always associates him with playing a bad guy, but he's very talented, very, very talented. Tom Jr. Jackson says, I always forget Charlie Sheen was in the film. And Broku says, this was a lot of fun. Thank you, RM. And Darth Plato, well, thank you, Brogu, for being here and being, subscribing to the channel. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Brogu. We do appreciate it. JH Edit says, what stood out for me were the performances. Yes. Yes, they were wonderful performances. It did feel like we were back in that time. And boy, you could see how important the newspaper was in this era. And I do like that they went ahead and told us the history, or let's say the headlines. They let us see those. They didn't have to do that. It was nice to see those headlines, Darth Plato. Someone had to go back in there and pull those out from wherever they got them from. But it was fantastic to see them sticking to what everybody would be looking at and reading. Would be those headlines. So that was very interesting. Do you think that the gangsters, and I'm using that term very loosely, Darth Plato, do you think that the gangsters depicted, or the bad guys were depicted well in this movie?
I thought they were. I think it really illustrates the how there were different groups and they had their own interests and they were telling each other, "Hey, mump off," and trying to cut the other guy. Like when the guy walks out and Rostin gets right after saying, "I'm not interested," and the guy walks out and Rostin gets on the phone saying, "Yeah, man." He's obviously trying to cut that other guy out, and that's very easy to believe that something like that happened. And we know Rostin was involved. Maybe it didn't go down exactly like what happened in the movie, but it's very easy to believe.
It is very easy to believe, and I did like the notion of us seeing a bunch of the players and managers, the whole group and organization of what makes up these baseball teams. I'm glad that we got to see a lot of that. I think it was pretty important for us to visually see it. And one of the things about when they show us movies about baseball, sometimes you don't always see all of the players who are involved. In this one, I felt like we saw everybody. We even saw the players' wives. it was involved. And I think it was important for us to see all those different elements of the organization and what role each one of them played in the success, or in this particular case, the situation,
That's right.
the coercion of these players, especially in an era. And you know something, I am certainly not going to say there's anything wrong with individuals who are illiterate. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, we have all different levels of learning and reading here, um, even on YouTube, guys. So just keep that in mind. What I am going to say, though, is that it brought it to light and made it very in your face. Sometimes, you know, we can forget, maybe not everybody, but sometimes we can forget that there are people who are not able to read and write out there. And but they may be athletes, especially in that era. So that was
Oh
something
yes.
that I thought was important to show, and
Yes.
how it might have been pretty common. It might be, you know, a quarter of the population, and in some areas, maybe half of the population might be fall into that category. So, guys, thank you so much. Yes, J.H. Edison, it did have a kind of an LA noir vibe, and I'm going to start playing LA noir again this weekend, guys. I'm going to go back
Chicago
to,
more.
yeah, absolutely. Darth Plato.
Yeah, another thing I'm going to say is the music. I love the fact that they show period specific music. So
Yes.
sometimes when you see a series or not a movie series, they're not true about it. They'll show music like in the Peaky Blinders. So I was watching the Peaky Blinders, and it was a good series. I like the series, but they didn't play period specific music. They play music from like 2020 or 2015, and it drove me crazy that they did that. And
Yeah, I have seen in quite a few series like that where they'll just to make a decision where they'll play something that's not era appropriate, and sometimes it does take you out of
it's
the
yeah,
era.
yeah, that was the problem for me. Yeah, that was the problem for me.
Absolutely. I did like the lighting in this film. It felt realistic for this time period, the clothing, all that stuff. It felt very accurate, and I enjoyed it. And um, I hope you all out there enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stavros says thanks and goodbye. Yes, guys, don't forget. Um, at It's going to be in a maybe 20 minutes. And thank you so much, Tom. Right after this, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be on the Burnettwork with Catherine Cook, and we're going to be talking about Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1. So that's going to be coming up in a few minutes. And as I said, JH Edits, I am going to be playing LA Noir again on this channel. I'm Positive Fandom, guys. I do game. I haven't been gaming recently because I've been going out and seeing family and friends.
I can't help but think that you lost your driver's license in LA Noir, and that's why you haven't been on.
Well, that all I'm going to say is power steering. That's all I'm going to say. um, yeah, I don't think I could do chases, car chases. I think regular driving, no problem. But those car chases are not great for me. Thank you, everybody, for watching, guys. See you later, Brogu. And guys, don't forget, on Saturday, Lorraine and I are going to be looking at least one episode of the greatest geek year ever episodes. You know, I think it's going to be at least one episode. I don't know if the second episode will be out yet, but we will start to talk about that. Yeah, Brogu, go on over to the Burnettwork because I'm going to be on there. Hope you all are well. Hope everybody's well. Dark Plato, where can people find you?
You can find me right here on the Positive Fandom, occasionally on the Burnettwork, but that's only because it gets telecast over there.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have me. Thanks for having me.
It's well, thank you for being here. And guys, Darth Plato and I are going to be doing an Oppenheimer review on the Burnettwork. It's also going to be on Positive Fandom, but we will be on both. So you are right, Darth Plato. Darth Plato, thank you so much for being here. Guys, remember, you can always find me here on Positive Fandom. So do like and subscribe. I so appreciate all of you being here. And thank you to my dear Irene for the $2 super chat. I so appreciate that so much. Thank you, Irene. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend. We are all good people. Make sure you subscribe to Tom's channel too. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We have more shows coming up. And I hope everybody has a great evening. And guys, just remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.